Welcome friends, welcome back to the kitchen, welcome back to a busy day meal. Now I've said this on the channel before. I go to the grocery store and I usually first go to the meat counter and I see what's on sale. And then I plan my meals around that. And I have a pantry that I stock with canned goods that I always have on hand. And I usually only buy canned goods when they're on sale. So in the back of my mind, I know what I've got in my pantry. I see what's on sale at the meat counter, and then I kind of formulate what I want to cook. So pork shoulder was on sale day after Labor Day. Pork shoulder was on sale at the grocery store, 50% off. So I bought a couple of pork shoulders, a couple of pieces of pork shoulder. I cut up what I'm going to use today in this stew. The other pieces I cut up and I put in the freezer for later this fall, early winter. And I knew that when I was standing there, I always have cans of beans, I always have cans of tomatoes, I always have some chopped chilies at home, and I always have some onions and chicken stock. And I thought, okay, I can put together a stew. Let's put together a crock pot stew because I've got a couple of busy days coming up and it's really easy just to throw this in the crock pot, forget about it, and then come back for supper. So I've got tomatoes, and you'll notice that these are actually branded tomatoes. I usually always buy this yellow no-name brand, but those were on sale about a month ago. Exceptional deal, so I went and bought them. Next in, I'm going to put some bacon fat. I always have this on hand as well, and so maybe just a tablespoon of bacon fat. That fat will bring a lot of flavor, but it will also make the stew, soupy stew, really unctuous. And I'm looking for that sort of unctuous feeling. I've got some chopped green chilies. I'm going to put those in. I'm going to put in a couple tablespoons of tomato paste just to ramp up that tomato flavor. I've got a chopped onion. In that goes. I had a jalapeno in the fridge. It was at the end of its useful life. In it goes. Some chicken stock. And this is one of those things where I'm not really following a recipe. I've got an idea in my head. I know these flavors go together. I know that if I put all of these things in the crock pot, I'm going to come out with something at the other side that I really like eating. So I've got some Mexican oregano. Yes, Mexican oregano isn't the same as Mediterranean oregano. It's not even in the same family. It has a different flavor. But if you can't get Mexican oregano, use Mediterranean oregano. It'll just have a different flavor, but it'll still be a really good flavor in this mixture. This is thyme. So, frugal. When I buy a bunch of fresh thyme at the grocery store, and I know that I'm not going to be able to use it all before it goes bad, I will lay it out on the counter in the basement and let it dry and put it in a baggie and then use it later as dry thyme. So I'm going to put in some sprigs of that. Oh no, not going to put that in yet. I'm going to stir this around first and mix it up. Just bring all those flavors together. As it cooks, they'll all come together anyway, but let's just give it a bit of a head start. Now, the pork shoulder, it had the bone in it and it had the skin on it. So I've taken the skin off and I've put it on a rack, on a tray. It's in the fridge with salt and pepper on it, and I will bake that off later when we get closer to supper time. Don't waste anything. I could have put the bone in the freezer with other bones to make soup stock later, but I thought, you know what, I'm putting this in the slow cooker. I'll put the bone in, and that will really ramp up all of the flavors that are going on here. So, in goes the pork with the bone. Put the thyme in. The last ingredient I'm going to put in is some white wine. If I didn't have a bottle of white wine open in the fridge, I wouldn't be using it. If I had a bottle of beer in the fridge, I might tip in some beer if I didn't have the white wine. If I didn't have any of those things, I would just put in a little bit more chicken stock or a little bit of water. The reality is the alcohol in the wine is going to bring out some of the other flavors. But if you don't have it, it's not the biggest deal. This is going to cook for a long time. It's really going to bring all of those flavors together. So, a couple of glugs of white wine. There we go. That's enough. And that's it for now. I'm going to put the lid on, and I'm going to set this on low for about 8 hours. Listen, if you don't have a slow cooker, you could do this in the oven, in a Dutch oven. Put it in a Dutch oven, stick it in your oven at 300 or 325. You would need to check it maybe every hour, hour and a half to make sure that there was enough liquid. Because if your lid doesn't tightly fit, the liquid will evaporate. And so you might have to add liquid along the way. I've got a couple of cans of beans. I'm going to put those in maybe 20 minutes before we serve. I've also got some corn in the freezer. I might put in a cup of frozen corn at that point too, just to sort of extend it. And this is a meal that I tallied up, based on buying stuff on sale and, taking the wine out because I already had the wine open. It was for something else. This pot of soup will feed Julie and I for dinner tonight and lunches for the next 2 or 3 days. You can eat fairly well at a reasonable price if you do just a tiny little bit of planning. Okay, a few hours have passed and this is pretty much ready to go. I'm about half an hour away from being ready to serve it. So at this point, I'm just going to give it a taste and check whether I need to add some salt and pepper. It's hot. Really good though. I think the salt is fine, but I am going to add some cracked black pepper. Salt really depends on your chicken stock, whatever stock you put in here. And I know that so many recipes tell you to use low sodium chicken stock, and that's great. If you can afford it. I know that it is more expensive. The low sodium stuff is more expensive. If what you can afford is the less expensive chicken stock, use it. And just know that you don't add any salt at the beginning. Adjust your salt at the end. I used homemade chicken stock, and the last batch of homemade chicken stock that I made had a little bit of extra salt in it. So this is fine. I don't need to add any. I'm going to throw in the beans. I've got a can of navy beans and black-eyed peas. Use whatever beans you have in your house, whatever is in your cupboard, whatever you like. Those are the beans to use. Oh, I was going to add some frozen corn. I'm going to get some frozen corn. Okay, some frozen corn. In that goes. I'm just going to stir that in, put the lid back on, and let that go for maybe another half an hour or so.
Hey, Glenn. Hey,
Jules.
friends.
A little bit of baguette.
A little baguette. What goes with our baguette, though?
Well, so it's crockpot surprise.
Crock-pot surprise.
Crockpot surprise. So pork shoulder was on sale, so I picked up a bunch of pork shoulder. And
Is it a sandwich kind of thing?
no.
Okay.
It's a soup.
Okay.
It's a soup. It's definitely a soup.
You said pork shoulder. I thought, oh, maybe it's just going to go in the...
No, so
Okay.
pork shoulder was on sale, and then I thought, okay, what have I got in the pantry at home? Can we make an inexpensive meal that would we'd have tonight for dinner and probably the next couple of days for lunch?
I giggle because my mom used to throw all sorts of leftovers in the pot. It was usually Thursdays. What's for dinner tonight? It's thick or thin.
Thick or thin?
So depending upon whether, how it kind of all worked out.
This is thin today.
Yeah, well, yeah. There you go.
Okay. So I haven't taken the bone out yet. The bone is still in there. I can take the bone out and probably peel off some more meat from it, but it's flavored the soup a lot.
I bet it would.
Yeah.
So it's my favorite, pork flavored.
Well,
I'm sure there's, but I'm going with, there's lots of vegetables, so it's got
there's lots of other stuff in there. Yeah. It's hot.
I was going to say, it's right out of the crock
We should
pot.
take a moment.
Let's take a moment, talk to our friends.
That's funny. So, I don't know if it's still on the channel, but way back in the channel, we did a thing at a tea museum in Hong Kong. And the lovely person who gave the little talk was always, if the tea's too hot, just take a moment.
Talk to your friends.
Talk to your friends.
It's like, it was just such a lovely piece of advice. Don't worry about it. Enjoy the moment.
That's really good. It's a hearty soup. Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is just, I know that I say this a lot. This is just a method, right? Don't get worked up about going into the kitchen and having to make something and follow a recipe exactly. You should be comfortable enough to step into the kitchen and say, I'm going to do this. It's going to be fine. This protein I used today was pork. Easily, exact same ingredients. This could have been chicken.
Could have been just vegetables.
Could have been, well,
Well, wouldn't it? You'd add a little extra for some
yeah.
flavor, maybe some mushrooms
you
and
need
stuff like that.
mushrooms
It's true.
would be, yeah, throw in mushrooms. If beef had been on sale, I could have done mostly the same ingredients and ended up with
Corn?
with beef in the same
Celery,
thing.
onion, yep.
Yeah,
Beans.
yeah. Little bit of Marmite to edge that beef flavor up. So don't think of it as prescriptive. Think of it as descriptive. And it's an inexpensive meal. That's easy to make. Put it in the crock pot, walk away, do your thing.
For the most part, I find I look to other recipes to figure out which flavors go together. Okay, I'm making a pork soup, so what spices should I add? Oh, that's what I should add.
And then build on that.
Because I don't always know.
Well, easily I could have
Right.
could have put cumin in this, and that flavor would have gone really well. Any bean, if Rotel had been on sale, there would have been 2 cans of Rotel in there instead of the can of tomatoes. But that's the sort of thing. So be flexible. Be flexible. Go to the store, see what's on sale, and then throw it all in your crock pot. It's a method. It's not a recipe. Don't be afraid. Take a chance. Step into the kitchen. Be fearless. Thanks for stopping by. See you again soon.